Now, the press continues to cover for Joe Biden, interestingly enough. So last Wednesday, the House Oversight Committee came out with all of these shell corporations showing that $10 million at least passed into the hands of the Biden family from foreign nations. Should trouble everybody. Should trouble everybody. Okay? But no, press doesn't seem to be bothered by it. Roll the tape.
You don't actually have any facts to that point. You've got some circumstantial evidence. And the other thing is, of all those names, the one person who didn't profit is there's no evidence that Joe Biden did anything illegally.
Well, if you look at the laptop and the emails between the president's son and his associates, they went to great lengths to hide Joe's involvement. They even gave him nicknames. They called him the Celtic and the big guy. But make no mistake, Joe Biden was involved.
Now, that questioning was from Fox News. So you see what's going on over there. Now, the questioning should have been to the Oversight Committee chair. In 4 months, you've uncovered all this banking, which is, that's doing their job, Oversight Committee. But how long do you think it is going to take to either accuse or acquit the President of the United States? Are you close? Do you have anything specifically? Laptop's not going to matter. Okay, that's what they call hearsay. All right, it's got to be fine. That's what the question should be, rather than the interviewer on Fox News going, "Oh, you don't have anything," because that's what they did on CNN and MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post. I thought I'd bring that to you. I thought that was very interesting. Unfortunately, we live in a corrupt country. It's still worth standing up for, because at the heart of it is a noble nation. But corruption has taken over. Now, this doesn't mean it'll always be that way. It could change back. But we need better leadership, that's for sure. The federal government and the media are driving the corruption. If you watch us regularly here on the No Spin News and listen to us on our radio stations all across the country, you know that I methodically have pointed that out, that there is corruption here, and it is depressing to me, but I'm going to fight against it, and that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. So the Durham report is finally out. Finally out. 4 years in the making. April 2019, John Durham, assigned to investigate the origins of the Federal Bureau of Investigation probe into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election between Trump and Hillary Clinton. All that time, 4 years plus a month, before Durham could write a 300-page report. Okay, I'm a pithy guy, I'm a simple man. We'll get right to the heart of the report so you don't have to read 300 pages. Here is the key passage. Quote, "The DOJ and FBI should recognize that lack of analytical rigor, apparent confirmation bias, and an over-willingness to rely on information from individuals connected to political opponents cause investigators to fail to adequately consider alternative hypotheses and to act without appropriate objectivity or restraint in pursuing allegations of collusion or conspiracy between a U.S. political campaign and a foreign power," unquote. That, of course, is the Trump campaign and Russia. So basically that boils down to, in pinheady bureaucratic language, the FBI did not conduct the investigation in a fair manner. Why? Because it wanted Hillary Clinton to beat Donald Trump. Now, the Mueller report issued in March of 2019, boy, 4 years ago already, man. Here's what Attorney General William Barr said. Quote, "The special counsel found that Russia did interfere with the election, but did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these efforts. despite multiple efforts from Russian-affiliated individuals to assist the Trump campaign. So the Trump campaign actually fended the Russians off, and Mueller found no collusion. So let's put this to bed. There was no collusion. The Trump campaign did nothing wrong. Okay? And that's a fact. Now, how much did this cost us? It cost us about $12 million at least. $6.5 million for Durham and about $5 million for Mueller. So all the Mueller people and the Durham people live pretty large on us. But that's okay, because we finally have a stake through the heart of the propagandists who convicted Trump and his campaign of heinous activities with Russia. Remember how they convicted them? Roll it.
This week, we saw cold, hard evidence of the Trump campaign, indeed the Trump family, eagerly intending to collude possibly with Russia, a hostile foreign power, to influence American elections.
The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help. And that is pretty damning.
The Russians were successful. I don't think there's any way to read that report and not conclude they accomplished what they set out to do. They had an objective to sow discord and divisiveness within our society at large and to help Donald Trump, and they succeeded.
Okay, so all three of those people have not issued any apologies at all. Okay, nothing, no perspective, and they get away with it because the media allows them to get away with it. What about Trump lies, okay? How many times have you heard that? 1 million times? Trump lies. Okay, you want to think Trump lies, then think that. Well, what about Pelosi lies, Schiff lies, Hillary Clinton lies, Joe Biden says the border's secure. Is that a lie? That's not true. So you see, the fix is in, and this is what I'm talking about corruption. So not only did the most powerful investigative agency in the world, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, okay, try to influence a presidential election, not only did they do that, but media people allowed Pelosi, Schiff, Hillary Clinton, and thousands of others to convict the Trump people. And now it's like, Now, behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz, the Wizard of Corruption, in my opinion, humble opinion, is a man named Andrew Weissmann. Remember him? He served as lead prosecutor for Mueller, the special counsel's office. He was the chief investigator. But he did not like the Mueller report at all. No. When it was issued, he wrote a book. And in the book, he says that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, made mistakes and could have done more because Weissmann wanted the report to indicate that Trump colluded with Russia. So put Weissmann's picture back up, and then those of you on the radio listening to me, he's got glasses. He looks like a Washington cat, as Miller would say. And now Weissmann is trying to tear the Durham report apart. Roll the tape on that.
You want to talk about a witch hunt or sort of real wasted resources. You know, there are a lot of things to investigate. There are a lot of things that can be useful in government. If John Durham was really just doing an investigation to talk about what are better policies and practices that the FBI could have and was depoliticizing it, I would have been all for that and said, great, you know what, there's no agency that can't use greater scrutiny. But this was trying to say that there's a big there when, you know, there's no there.
He's a moron. This guy at the highest level of the Justice Department is a blanket moron. No there. Yeah, there is. The FBI inserted itself in a presidential election trying to tilt it to Hillary Clinton. Whew. Okay, so is Weissmann going to be held accountable? No. Who are the other big shots that caused this? James Comey, former director of the FBI. Assistant Director Andrew McCabe, who's on CNN now. And Peter Strzok, the notorious Peter Strzok, who headed the fraudulent investigation. any of them going to get prosecuted? Or Durham doesn't even mention them. Doesn't even mention their names. They're not getting prosecuted. Not under Merrick Garland. So I wrote a message of the day that explains why this corruption continues. So if you got a director of the FBI, an assistant director, and a lead investigator, and the Mueller report says nothing happened, and the Durham report says the FBI knew nothing happened but investigated anyway, somebody should be prosecuted. Right? Right? But no, because the government's corrupt. Justice Department's corrupt. It's just so deflating for a person like me, and I bet you too, who loves our country. It's just so deflating. Anyway, the message of the day, I hope you read it. Post it on BillO'Reilly.com. You don't have to be a premium concierge member. You go in there and read it. And that's the corrupt media. Let's just get back to this for a moment. Do I spend too much time on the media? If I do, write me. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com, Bill@BillO'Reilly.com. But this is my profession, and I guess I'm obsessed with it a little bit. But if you're bored by it, tell me. I think I've made my case that it's corrupt, but you know, if you want me to de-intensify, I will. But the Durham report comes out, and right away, the pro-Biden, anti-Trump crew swing into action. MSNBC is the leader of the pack. Go.
What? Do you and Durham, like, you guys have tea parties every weekend to talk about how you can destroy your reputations and your career? Durham tried this, remember? He chased conspiracy theories to try to prove that the FBI was corrupt and rigged the 2016 election. He made a fool of himself time and time and time again. And now we have lost informants. In fact, the informant that this entire charade was supposedly built on.
He's talking about the Hunter Biden case there, and Durham made a fool of himself time and time again. I haven't seen that. I think Durham gutted the system and took as much money as he could out of it. But I think his report is basically honest. So you may remember that that man, Scarborough, was a Republican congressman from Florida from 1995 to 2001. Then he hired on with MSNBC, and now he's a big lefty. Same thing with Nicole Wallace, who works for MSNBC. She was Bush the Younger's campaign communications director. All right. And then she worked on John McCain's 2008 presidential campaign. And now she's a raving lefty on MSNBC. So maybe they were converted. Maybe they had a St. Paul moment on the road to Damascus, and a voice kind of said, you need to be far left progressives. This is God. I don't know if that happened. I kind of doubt it. I think maybe the conversion came when the checks were cashed. Maybe. Don't want to be cynical. That's the second snarky thing I've said in, 13 minutes on the No Spin News tonight. I'm not going to apologize for that because I think that's accurate, but the other thing, I was too snarky.